Hello, hello, everyone. Welcome back. I am Rico,
I'm Tony.
and this is the podcast known as Relatively Sound, the podcast where the spotlight is ours. Today, Tony and I are continuing our album for album series for this month. Last week, we looked at Heat Miser's third and final album, and this week, we are looking at my suggestion of Mutemath's second studio album, Armistice, which I gotta I gotta do the little brag here of owning a vinyl copy of this bad boy. Very
Flex
hard,
alert.
very hard to get on vinyl. Very expensive nowadays. Um, Hopefully they'll reissue it in the future, but I don't know.
Subtle,
Um,
very subtle.
Now, last year, Tony listened to his first Mute Math album here on the podcast, Odd Soul, Mute Math's third album, the album that followed this one. And you enjoyed it. You liked it.
Yeah,
Um, First
it's
time
it's a
hearing
cool
them.
record. First time hearing them. I knew a few things about them just from what you told me, but it was a pretty cool record, and it's grown on me a little more. And I don't listen to it as much as I probably should, but I was excited to go back and hear a new freaking album now.
Yeah, so these suggestions, even though they're coming from me, they also come from my girlfriend Lindsay, her favorite band, and you know, she thought Odd Soul would be a good first album to give you from them because it's probably their most like guitar heavy album, most bass heavy album, has some throwbacks like some 70 vibes and stuff, but probably not an album that like is what they sound the most like. It was a little bit of a left turn from them, and that kind of came from them losing an original member. So Armistice, I think, is probably maybe the most one of the most Mute Math sounding albums out of their
Okay.
discography, and it's on most days it's Lindsay's favorite Mute Math album, so it's probably in her top three albums of all time. I know it's not number one, but
Wow.
it's probably two or three. And yeah, we're just like, okay, if we're gonna give Tony another Mute Math, it's probably either this one or they're self-titled. And I think this one we just thought maybe the songwriting was a little bit more abstract. The tones were a little darker, so I think I kind of like it better than their first album too. But yeah, so I mean, expectations going into this, you excited to hear another Mute Math album? You hoping for anything particular?
Yeah, I am excited. I'm hoping mostly for more times for the musicianship to shine. I thought with Odd Soul, my favorite part was just like how energetic some of the songs were. Um, Drummer goes hard, basses goes hard. And I know you said he did what most of the guitars on that record, right?
Oh yeah, on Odd Soul.
Yeah. So
This time
I'm
around,
hoping
you
more for a repeat, but I know you literally just said that it's not a repeat of that. It's
yeah, because
its own thing.
you have the original guitarist still in the band for this album, and yeah, it's kind of more like them taking their sounds from their first album and involving it a little bit more. So yeah, if you're listening on Spotify or Apple Music, anywhere else, make sure to head over to our YouTube page, Relatively Sound Podcast, where you're going to see an edited first reaction of Tony listening to Armistice. So let's go give it a first listen.
Let's go.
All right, first song, The Nerve.
Okay. Really high energy drums, the shaker. Be the one to tell you that. I'm just thinking about Hard Heads Up. Okay, some kind of noise going on. Really like the ride work. Okay, straight into second verse. Okay. Seems to be a lot of like intentional production choices. Like that. Kind of like jerks you around this chorus. Song one in our first solo. Okay, slide with a big delay. Ooh. Is that muted bass going on there?
I think so.
I like that this bass changes its note on that last one. Oh, okay. Okay, sudden
I,
stop.
I paused it
Thank you.
really quick because yeah, it's
Good catch.
I knew it was coming.
Okay, well, right out the gate, high energy song to start the album. A fan of that. Um, I did notice that kind of glitchy sounding guitar at the end that I can't help but not think about Jack White every time I hear something like that. Um, wow, okay, okay. High energy. So, the first listen, I have a feeling that this is not gonna be one of my favorites from the record.
Oh,
Uh,
interesting.
I like the energy, but I feel like it's a little bit it's straightforward, which I think is the point, you know. Like, the hook's pretty simple. I'm not the biggest fan of like just the set it on fire for the chorus on the vocals. I like the guy's voice though, so I don't have an issue with it. Doesn't take away necessarily. Um, I don't want to get too hung up on it. I want to hear more from this record.
You want to just jump right into the
Let's
next
just
one?
jump right in. Let's just get the
Okay.
experience going.
Second song, Backfire.
Really like crunchy drums. This one's a lot more poppy. A lot of textural things seem to be going on with like the guitar in the right, a lot of like really saturated sounding stuff throughout. The bass is noticeably farty, I will say that. Okay, okay, kind of funky. Nice mute on the left channel, the guitar. I don't know. I don't know if I'm out of pocket for saying it, but I'm kind of getting Chili Pepper vibes from this. Okay, okay. I don't have a lot of thoughts on that one. Okay. Let's okay. Let's get one more song in, and then we'll do a little evaluation. We'll do a little timeout here.
Okay.
I got to process what's going on. It's a rock record. You shouldn't stop and start with the rock records. Okay.
Yeah. Okay. So you ready for the third song here?
Yes.
Clipping.
Flipping. That's a cool sound, and it sounds like it's clipping. Ooh. A little halftime swing. Well, that's a big halftime swing, but carrying bottled skies around. I like that line. That's cool. Cool image. Nice tinkly piano, like arpeggios. Okay, I like that chord. That's a good chord there. It's filling out. It's getting lush.
We call that chord the Lindsay chord.
The Lindsay chord. Well, I hope there's more of those on the record. Now this is feeling more like more like a Coldplay song or something, kind of.
Okay.
The vocals kind of remind me of something there. I'll have to see if I can figure it out. Strings? In like a real trancey sort of way. Very forward in the mix, sounds quite dry compared to the rest of it. Really leaning into the repetition, which I think I was pretty good with until now, but I hope the song goes somewhere now. I hear like the vibraphone or whatever that is. That's nice. Musically, this is a really cool texture. I like it. And on some ambience. Okay, okay. That one I'm really torn on. I really like the first 2 minutes of it. I thought the repetition was really beneficial. I really love I guess like the verse or whatever, like when it fleshed out and they hit the Lindsay chord. Big fan of that. But then the rest of the song was just way too repetitive. The strings was pretty cool. That was kind of unexpected, a little twist, and I thought it worked well. But when they just go back and back to that chorus and he just keeps singing and singing and the song just keeps like it's felt like it's been built up, so it doesn't really feel like it goes anywhere. So I wish it was a little bit shorter, or I wish it did more of that verse. That's really what I want.
So you don't think
But
it's just like a vibey track?
it, but it's a little too. It's a little too. Let me just shout the chorus sentence over and over. I will say on Odd Soul, some of my favorites were the vibey tracks. Cool. We're gonna do the next one.
You ready for Spotlight?
What is this clapping, dude? Bro's going nuts. Oh, okay. Shit, that was a dope drum fill. Okay, nice riff over that guitar picking. I didn't mind the vocal doing that little run. Okay. Pre-chorus. Back to that vocal run. I was hoping it was going to go back to that different chord progression. Okay, here's that chord part.
You're digging the pre-chorus, it sounds like.
So we haven't hit the chorus yet, is what you're telling me.
No, no, this is the chorus.
Oh, this is chorus. Yeah, I wish we got more of the pre-chorus, you know? Switch it up. Okay, the clapping's on this side now. I noticed the riff also had moved. Really big, like, I don't know if it's called like reverb swells, but is this new? The kind of the solo part? Is this like a new variation?
I would say variation.
All right. Okay. I really like parts of that for sure, but once again, I just wish they gave a little more variety. I wish they leaned into the parts where they do something different. Like, 'cause that's a rockin' section. I like both the riffs. I'm liking these like kind of clean but really like crunchy guitar tones, kind of like almost plinky at times. Yeah.
Now, I will say Spotlight, I didn't give you much information about the album prior. Spotlight was one of the singles from the album, one of two. One of, I would say probably their second biggest song across all their albums, and is the sole reason Lindsay became a fan of them and why they became her favorite band, because this song, Spotlight, was featured, a different version of it was featured in Twilight, the first Twilight movie.
Oh, really? Okay.
And Lindsay was a big fan of the first Twilight movie. And the soundtrack is actually packed. You got Mutemath, you have Linkin Park, you have Muse, you have Radiohead, you have Paramore.
Yeah, I could see this one being a fun one live. Yeah, and I forget too that they're. I mean, like from what I've heard from like Lindsay's actual stories and the few clips I've seen that you have shown me, they seem like their strength is almost more in their live performances than
Well,
necessarily.
they're
Yeah, I mean, I would say this is my favorite one so far. I think it was just
okay.
the most. I really like the high energy of the first track as an opener. I don't think that was a bad choice. I think this would have been a really cool like second track, just to show them what's up. Present themselves as an unstoppable force right out the gate.
Okay, you ready for the next song?
Yeah,
All
let's
right.
do it.
No
I'm seeing the
response.
first lyrics here.
No response.
Okay, so far like a 20-second intro, just drums and some guitar. Not liking where this is going. Disappointing. Disappointing they went here.
You don't like the chords?
No, no, this was very generic. Very forgettable. Melody didn't stand out. Even though they're doing that like kind of that like whoa. Whoa. Okay, okay.
That's also the Lindsay chords.
Yeah. Get some soft kind of real moody sounding chords. Okay, now this part's cooking. Soft piano with the drums. Simple but catchy melody. This is like what the Chili Peppers do for a chorus when they don't know what to do.
But where would you go with this?
Anywhere but here. Come on, they're creative. Come on, this is their job. Okay, I like the extra vocals on that line. I say the best part about the chorus is the lyrics. Really like thick, like synthy bass. Okay, drums pick it up. Get shaker, get tambourine. It's a little bit better now. It's a little bit better now.
Maybe you just had to get used to it.
So, okay. I have mixed feelings on that one. I kind of like that one a lot. Like there was moments where that one was like a vibe track, like I was kind of hoping for some of. Chorus was pretty weak though, but I guess at the very least, at least that section was a little more distinct than some of the other like choruses, and also too, I think the balance of those two sections, like as far as duration goes, I feel like it was a lot more proportional.
See,
Well, okay, like for me, some of these songs are just not really going anywhere, and they're like screaming to go somewhere. And it's not that you can't just like repeat something. Like for example, I liked the first 2 minutes of was it clipping
yeah,
or
yeah.
yeah, like that was a cool texture. I like that. It kind of felt like when you're on a rocky boat. It had like that that shuffle, but that song didn't really go anywhere. But like for me, I'm missing a lot of catchy vocal hooks. That kind of helped on Odd Soul to kind of separate the sections of the song. I am missing out on some of the structures here. I do think there's dynamics though. I'm not saying the songs do nothing, and there are variations, but I just wish they leaned into those things more.
Let's see if these next couple will do anything more for you than what they have been doing. Next song, Pins and Needles.
Pins and needles. Ok- I don't know how to interpret this. Is he like playing with like brushes, hitting the tom, and then like the snare?
I believe so.
In that first part, it sounded like the chords were doing like a dramatic progression that was like reversed, the effect. I like this like tingly sounding thing in the higher register. Okay, drums are like the intro, but they're like advanced more, a little more going on. So when the ride comes in, that's your signal for the chorus. Chord progression changes really naturally. Gets a little more of a major sound. Whole time the drums are super fast, but the chords are pretty slow, very washy, sustained. A really solid but kind of modest vocal performance compared to the rest of the songs. The drums, I'm not sure like how overdubbed they are, but very wide spread stereo field. New progression. A little bit more cinematic. This is pretty. I'm a sucker for that chord progression, those first two chords. I'll tell you right now, that's gonna be my favorite off the album. That was the all or nothing of the record. No, I actually really like that. I think subtle is a good word, like you said. There was a lot of development that was slow, and even though it was really cohesive, the changes were noticeable. The song felt like it was moving. It was a really effective vibe track. On paper, a minute of strings at the end of an already slow song. I mean, the drums are active, but it's still a slow song. Sounds kind of like a interesting move, but it worked really well. I like that it did a new chord progression that somehow still fit the vibe. I really like that. I mean, that is probably going to be my favorite.
Okay, next song is Goodbye.
It's a really kind of simple chord progression again, but I like how they're orchestrating it. This is quite pop, but it's quite infectious.
You didn't mention Coldplay earlier. Now I'm listening to the song. This feels like Coldplay to me.
I was kind of thinking that, yeah.
X and Y Coldplay.
Okay. Drums are very loud on this track. Yeah, I mean, if you're going to be loud, at least they chose a great drummer for it. Okay, a bit repetitive, but almost 2 minutes in, we still have 2 minutes left. Okay. Like a major 7 sound. Different chord progression. Unexpected. Man, those drums just cooking, man. Oh, okay, what's going on there? I don't know like if that's like a glockenspiel or some shit. I don't know, whatever it is, I like it though. I just kind of hear the guitar come in, kind of here and there. I don't really know what it's doing, but it's cool. Okay, much like clipping, it kind of suffered from the same thing. Like they took like a really good section, but they just kind of stuck with it too long. Which I think when you have a section like this where they build it, there's a lot going on. Like yeah, you should hang on it if it's good. Let it play out, but it didn't really go anywhere. So once again, it's it's not hitting every box on the checklist, but that was catchy. It was fun, a little dancier than I normally listen to, but not in a bad way, not cringy.
Ready for the next track, Odds?
Okay. Was not expecting this based off that little drum intro. Okay, this was even more pop than the last song. A lot of clapping on this record. I like that we have some breathing room on the album here, where there's not as much happening all at once. Just very loud drums and claps. They do make a cool rhythm though. I think that's the strength of the song. The drums kind of did something different than what I expected. I don't know. That might be my least favorite. That's like I feel like it's not. I feel like it's not like the most. I'm not saying that any of these songs on the album are straight up generic, but I wouldn't say that song is like the most generic on the record. But to me, it's maybe kind of the most forgettable so far. Yeah. Like I had mentioned, there's like a space that it brings to the record, which I think is important. But I don't really see a reality where I'm listening to the song on its own.
All right, Electrify.
Roll the tape. Roll film.
Electrify.
Yeah, the like reverse scream thing to come in. Okay, I like this. Pipe. Bro, these drums, they literally just sound like When you're playing like a video game and you have the super fast programmed drums. This guy's a beast, man. I know you kind of sang that first like little bit there, like a Jack White song.
It's okay, you're gonna
Doing
like
that
Jack White.
storytelling. Yeah, I want to like this song more than I think I actually am liking it. Little bass break. Okay, okay. This is kind of chill. Okay, okay, okay. I'm feeling it too now. I feel it now.
You feel it in your bones?
All. Wasn't expected to go lower in energy. Wasn't expecting that, but I'm okay with that though.
Give you something different.
Okay, I feel like the song is finally bloomed. Okay, because I'm really enjoying this. It's fun to follow. This part kind of feels a lot more impactful now. Okay, some dropout here. Good choice. Okay, that was interesting. I wasn't. They weren't selling it to me in the first half, but about halfway through, they got me. They hooked me in. I will say probably the best line in this whole thing is at the get-go. My heart is an oven and she's pushing the buttons right now.
You ready for title track Armistice?
Yes. I like the delay on the riff. Okay, I like the horns. Okay, bass is grooving. I like the delay over it with the guitar. Whoa. Yeah, the bass is doing some interesting stuff here. Okay, vocal harmony is cool. Good stop, good stop. Alright, see, this song sold me in the first 10 seconds, alright? The bass sounds so good. Horns work well, but not too much. Okay, drop the bass lower. Good lord, man. Bringing the strings back in. I guess all the best songs on this record end with strings. Ooh, yeah, nasty with that bass. I like how all textural this is. Everyone's doing their own little groove. Okay, I was wrong. This is the best song off the album. I was wrong. So okay, so I would actually say they sound like this comparison I'm gonna make. Hear me out, and I don't think you know them too much, but in ways it was kind of similar to Jamiroquai.
Lindsay loves a couple of his or their songs, so she definitely would not be offended by that comparison. I only know the Napoleon Dynamite song, but
well, I guess we got to get you a Jamiroquai album soon. So, I mean, because to me, like very active, funky bass playing. You had horns, but the big thing is the bass playing and these high pitched vocals, which is to me one of the, defining features of Jamiroquai. So that was cool. I wasn't expecting them to get that funky and to commit to the bit, but that was welcomed. Now, I actually would probably separate. I thought it was gonna be grouped as like the best of all the rock songs, but it kind of feels in its own category. It doesn't feel just straight up like one of the rock songs. It's a little more an outlier. I literally have no idea what any of the words were on that last song, but I don't care.
because you were just yeah.
I was locked in, bro.
Last year, let's get it.
Last year.
Where love was disregarded and it all came undone.
I don't expect your face to change for this entire reaction.
Dude, I'm sorry. This is kind of a boring song already. They don't have my attention.
This reaction clip is going to be the shortest that we've ever done.
Dude, this is gonna be like 3 seconds, bro. I tried so hard to find something good about that song. Well, okay.
Is it?
I didn't
a
find
bad
a lot
song?
bad. No, I did not find much bad.
So then here's a question we have to ask, and I think it's an important question. What's worse, a song that actually has bad parts, whether it's bad lyrics, bad vocals, harmonies, music playing, or is it worse if it's just what these days kids would consider mid?
That's a tough question. That is a tough question. And I think part of it, as I kind of realized, is that, I could point out, there is, it's not just, here's a super boring sounding production. The production is pretty consistent with the rest of the album. There is cool things going on. But if that's already the tone of the rest of the album, I can't really praise that too much for this song. And it's not that I'm holding back on praising it because of that. It's just, I just feel like this doesn't really offer much. The progressions don't draw me in. The melody doesn't draw me in. I just felt like, this is very lackluster. Okay.
Here we go, Burden.
Okay. I didn't know where they were going with that intro. I'm cool with this. Yeah, this is way more like Oxford. Okay, a little bit of double time on the drums. I don't know if we've gotten that yet, actually. That's like a super simple guitar part, but why does that work so good? Dude. Nice chord. Okay, a little Pomerello action. Yeah, the drums are killing it there. This feels like a band in full force here. That's a good feeling. Okay, I like that. I don't know where they're going, and I like they're hanging on to this a little bit longer. The boys are locked in. It's almost like they gave us that minute of strings at the end, in the middle of the song. The effect on his voice is awesome. Very cool. Still keeping the same section. Drums come in. Keep at halftime. So this had like this rising pitch come in, and then it drops out. This real fat, sluggish bass comes in. Do I say it?
Say it.
That's my new favorite off the album.
Wow.
Maybe.
Okay.
I
had a
can't
feeling
tell
you
from
would.
first listen.
I had a feeling you would like it, but I wasn't quite sure if it was going to get your, your number one spot. And it's really hard on a first listen. I almost can never have a favorite on a first listen.
Especially when it's a 9-minute song and all the other songs are like
Yeah.
4.5 or under. What I like is the song kind of has like phases to it. There's like kind of the main like song part. That's like the rest of the album. That's like, I don't know, like 3-4 minutes. And I really like it. I think it's some of the best off the album. It's entertaining. It's very listenable. And then it does do the big drop, and you get these different sections. And they even though it was really low energy for most of it on the way out, the dynamics kept me guessing. It wasn't what I was expecting, especially at the end where they, at first you think it's gonna be trancy, just very same, but then they start picking it up, and it's like a jam band sort of way, like an Wilco way. It feels very natural, playing off of each other. But then it drops out, and then it just ends with drums, and I don't know how I feel about that choice. I think it's one that I'm gonna have to listen to a few times. It's one of those maybe things that will challenge me. Get a different shade of the band. But that was a cool song. I'm glad they put something like this on this record, because if they didn't, I think it would be. I don't think it would be a bad album, but I just think it would be a kind of a more forgettable album.
So yeah, I mean,
Shit, I mean that was Armistice, I guess.
Yeah, so let's jump forward a couple weeks and let's see what you think of the album now. All right, so Tony's given Armistice. He gave it a first listen together, and now Tony's had a couple weeks now to let the album digest, and I'm very curious if any of your thoughts have changed from it. I kind of don't think a lot of it will. I kind of think this is going to be one of those albums where the songs you liked on the first listen, you're still going to like, and the songs you didn't love on your first listen, you're still not going to love. But I am curious. I do kind of think you're going to compare it a lot to Odd Soul, which it's kind of hard not to compare. If you've only heard two albums from a band, it's kind of hard not to compare them to one another. Same thing happened with
And if you have a
Counting
song
Crows.
called Odds on an album, and then your other album is called Odd Soul, you can't help but compare it, right?
Wow. But it's not the title track, though, at least.
It's not. Yeah, you are right. You are right. So, I've tried really hard. I've given this album a lot of listens. Kind of more actively listening in the back, morning, night. I've tried, and to me, this is just a record that I can appreciate, but I just personally can't really connect with. I will say this. This is a catchy album. There is so many catchy like vocal hooks, with lyrics that work well for it. There's a lot of dancey energy, and that's pretty cool. I think they do that well. But it's just I listen to this record and I don't really keep anything. I don't really retain anything. Nothing really lasts with me. Except for probably honestly like the chorus and Goodbye, because they do that for like 2 minutes straight. It's really catchy, but But yeah, I don't know. For me, I think the my favorite moments in the album were probably just like the really high energy moments. So just kind of jumping into it. Is it the title track with like kind of like the whole funky bass thing going on?
Yes.
Yeah, like that one is interesting. Um,
That's kind of their New Orleans like Mardi Gras song.
okay, okay. The Nerve, even though I think the Nerve is a pretty simple song, maybe compared to some of the other ones, it's a pretty good way to start an album, I think.
It's one of my
Uh,
favorites on the album.
yeah, yeah. Even though it doesn't actually have that many listens compared to the other songs. It's kind of in the middle. It's kind of in the middle. Yeah, I didn't even really look at the view count until now. I see Electrify's got almost 2 million.
I'm
But
curious because one of your favorites on the first listen was actually Pins and Needles, which is one of the more quieter moments on the album. Does that still stand
okay,
true?
yes, I do like Pins and Needles. I like it because it feels a little more um emotional. And I'm not saying he doesn't sing any other songs with emotions. I don't even know what the song's about, but he sings it in a way that kind of moves me a little bit more. It's dramatic. I think the vocals sound real nice on it too. And his vocals sound good on this record, but I don't think they sound as good as they later will be on like Odd Soul.
That's very interesting because
Hot take?
um, not a hot take, but I will say for Lindsay's own preference, she prefers his vocals on their first two albums just because he sings the songs and kind of a like not lower register, but he starts doing more falsetto from Odd Soul onward through just their discography. And she sometimes likes where his voice is a little bit more lower. Sometimes he does a little bit more of the raspier side. And this album, he doesn't really do too much scream. On the first album, there's actually a couple songs where he does do more of like a, not like a, Linkin Park, Chester Bennington scream or yell, but
Yeah.
he
Not
gets a
the
little,
angst,
yeah,
but
it's a little bit more angstier on their first album for sure. But this album for Lindsay is kind of her favorite vocal tone from Paul.
yeah, I don't know if it's okay. I gotta say this. I feel like for me, maybe the production of the album kind of holds it back for me. Because it just feels like everything's not as impactful as it was on Odd Soul for me. And I actually quite like the vocals on Odd Soul. I think he has a unique voice. I think the falsettos sounds really cool. Gets a lot of cool sounds on some of the what is it, All or Nothing? The one I really like from Odd Soul.
All or Nothing, yeah.
Yes, yes. Like I love the way the vocals sound on that. But yeah, I mean, Clipping's also kind of a cool song. It's a little bit repetitive. And like I said, a lot of these songs are kind of dancier, and I think that's probably the point. Is to have something, catchy that you can just listen to, groove with, and then move on to the next song. And I think the only other really big song to really point out would be Burden.
And that
Last two
was,
tracks, actually. Uh, Last Year is maybe my least favorite right now.
yeah, and that's kind of, I mean, that's my least favorite. I think Lindsay, if she had to pick a least favorite, it'd probably be that one.
I just don't really think there's a lot going on with it compared to the other tracks.
It's just a ballad. It's pretty, it's nice, but it's like one that at least I know the three of us would not go out of our way to listen to. But like on the album when it comes around, it's good.
And at least, and I'm sorry to have to talk about this album by talking about Odd Soul, but like at least with Odd Soul, the closing track, even though that is like the ballad of the album, at least is kind of positioned in a way that makes it kind of stand out more than the other tracks. Where Last Year, it just kind of sits in with all the other songs in a forgettable way
But I'm glad
for
that it's
me.
not the last song on this album.
Yes, I am glad though. I am glad they ended it with Burden because even though it is a long song to digest, and I don't have it, internalized by any means, it's a nice one to listen to. There's a lot of different things going on. It feels a lot more like freeform, which is nice when you get an album that is mostly songs that range from 3 to 4 minutes.
Yeah,
The longest, second longest song is 4:09, and then Burden is 9:05. So I do
quite a big
appreciate
jump.
that.
Yeah.
And they are musicians who can pull it off. So I like to see bands that can do it go ahead and make it happen.
Now, funny enough, Burden and the length of it is like the one moment on the album where Lindsay and I disagree with the most. I don't know. I know we talked about it during the reaction part, but I might have clipped it out. But I love the song for like the first, I don't know, maybe it's like 3 or 4 minutes. And then the second, like the rest of the instruments go away, and it's just kind of like the synths and the vocals. Even though I like the lyrics and I like what he's singing, and I like some of the chords, I just think like it starts to sound like a completely different song. I almost think it should have been its own song, instead of like a really long coda. Um, of course, Lindsay loves it. I mean, she loves like 99% of the things they do. But and again, I like parts of the ending, but I just the first half gets me so hyped. I love the guitar riff. I love the vocal melodies, the drums, and then the second part doesn't do as much for me. But
I,
I have a feeling you're kind of more in the middle between us, probably.
yeah, so I am like in the middle. Like I do like Burden overall. I do like that because it's at the end of the album. They kind of have time just to kind of toy around and like jam out. With Odd Soul, my favorite part of the album was probably one of my favorite parts was All or Nothing into Sunray, and that's where it gets kind of spacey at times. They let things breathe, things develop. And even though I don't like Burden as much as that part of Odd Soul, this was the closest thing I could see, kind of they share that in some way, which I appreciate and enjoy. But surprisingly though, you had actually I'm not sure if you kept it. I don't think so with our reaction, but you showed me a bonus track from
Yeah,
Armistice.
I was gonna bring that up. Yeah, and for the listeners, if you're well aware of this album, if you're a big Mutemath fan, you might know that there was a song that they recorded for Armistice titled "Architecture," and I believe it was an iTunes only bonus track. And then it was actually in the B side of a promotional Backfire vinyl single that they did for the
Oh,
fan club, which we of course have, and is fantastic. So really, only physical copy of Architecture you can find, and it's one of Lindsay's top UMAT songs, probably in her top 10, if not maybe top five. And it's a song that she would probably have loved on the album. And I played it for you because she wanted you to listen to it, and because she just thinks it's so great. And I also think it should have been on the album. I would have replaced, Last Year with Architecture, or maybe even a song like Odds, if I'm being honest. So,
and if they didn't have to replace the song, at least just throw it in anyways. Yeah,
yeah, I mean, so
like
you were a fan
fire
of it,
track.
right?
Yeah, it was really cool. It was high energy. I think it was in five. I think I said. Don't count me
Yeah.
on that. But yeah, it's a bummer I didn't make it on here because I would have liked that actually. Having some more hype songs. And I get it. This album does have a lot of energies.
So I do have a couple follow-up questions. My first being the most obvious one, the one I already know the answer to, which is if you had to pick between the two albums, which one do you prefer?
Odd Soul, all day,
Also,
all
okay.
night.
My second question, I guess, for this album is if you had to pick a favorite song, which one would it be? I'm pretty sure you'd pick between um, Burden, title track, and Pins and Needles.
I'll probably go with Pins and Needles because for me, I think I liked it kind of right away compared to the other tracks,
So
and it's still standing there. I like
you,
the vibey stuff they do.
yeah, like you, I think you like it way more than the rock stuff because All or Nothing is like one of two, I would say at least one of two songs on Out Soul where it's like the more breather song on the album, and especially All or Nothing feels like it feels more like to me Armistice than it does Odd Soul songs. Like it doesn't have that 70s.
Really?
I don't think it has any of that like 70s rock feel that the rest of the album does. I mean,
Well, okay. What I like. So I think my two favorite Mute Math things so far from only knowing these two albums is I like when they do this vibey kind of exploration stuff, and then I also like when they do these more progressive type of energy songs. So even though like I said, Set It on Fire is not Set It on the Nerve,
Backfire. Oh yeah, the nerve.
which I just assume it's called Set It on Fire,
Yeah.
but that song, yes, that's how catchy it is. Like even though that is a simple, energetic song, if it was a little bit more, off the walls like that bonus track, then for me it would be that much better. Um, you keep mentioning Odd Soul having like kind of like some 70s sounds in it, which is it's kind of weird though because I feel like I get what you're saying, but I feel like I also could not pinpoint what it is that kind of gives it that vibe.
I I mean, I think a lot of it is like the guitar riffs. Like, I mean, like looking at the track listing for Odd Soul, I think the second track, Britannia, I mean, I just think like the guitar riffs and like the percussive work and the chordal patterns that they're using. I think that's very 70s. Tell your heart heads up. Definitely to me, it's like the organs. And then like just a lot of like for like Calvaries, like it has some like kind of funky rock bits and like I don't know, like some of the riffs that Roy's playing on Odd Soul like give me Hendrix vibes.
Okay, you know
When I
what?
think of 70s rock, I think of Hendrix.
All right, you're right, right. It didn't take long to kind of hear your reasoning and click through a couple tracks and okay,
But I
especially in
understand it
comparison.
as someone who's not familiar with Mutemath's work, especially because to me, like it's like the outlier in their albums. Like if to me, Odd Soul is even more of an outlier than the following album, which was their like more synth pop album, Vitals. So just knowing their work, it's like their one kind of standout moment. Like I'm sure if I selected a band like The Doors, they for you probably have a really standout album that sounds nothing like the rest, or like Beach Boys,
The
or
Soft Parade, yeah.
and not every band has that. Like Primus, I'd be shocked if they had an album that was really that much different than the rest.
Well, I mean, I think their Willy Wonka,
Besides that,
soundtrack
that
cover,
doesn't count. That doesn't. I'm talking about
but
just like
yes,
normal
yes,
studio
yes.
albums. But
I get you. Uh,
Mutemath, they, I think this one, I think Odd Soul and the following album, Vitals, is their most kind of out there albums. But um, uh, Armistice to me is kind of like I think their classic sound. I think songs like Spotlight and even some songs that you didn't really gel with as much, like Clipping. I think that's also kind of like their DNA of their sound.
yeah,
Um,
yeah, I can see Clippin' being like kind of like I
yeah,
don't want
or
to say a staple, but a good identifier of
yeah,
them.
and like those are definitely songs they play live. Like Clipping, I think we saw it at least once live, if not maybe I think maybe just the one time. Lindsay's seen it multiple times live. Uh, Title track they play a lot live because that's just such a fun one.
Yeah, that's
Spotlight's
sick.
their Spotlight's probably like their second biggest song, if not their biggest. Second.
Really?
Yeah, Spotlight was. I mean, like I said, the reason Lindsay got into them is because it was on the Twilight soundtrack.
Oh, I'll see if Ellen knows that. Yeah, that song. Then I'll have to see.
Yeah,
So, okay, something that's very apparent to me, and I don't want to sound like an old man saying this here, but as we discuss Odd Soul and Armistice, and I kind of go back and forth A beam a little bit, I definitely can see how yes, Odd Soul's a little more riff inspired, and even though I would say they do this like that kind of old school sound in a very modern way, I just think like the production and the production has a lot more life to it than Armistice, and I feel like it's a really this kind of 70 sounds more of a good what do you call it? Like a good medium for them to kind of I don't know, put all these creative ideas in it. Cuz I feel like there's a lot of Armistice that I'm not really getting out. I just feel like this album's kind of muted to it. I
well,
don't know how to explain it. I
and
don't know how to explain it.
that was kind of the risk that I talked to with Lindsay about with giving you that as your first Meat Math album because I'm like, it's if he listens to any other album, if he loves Odd Soul, he might be disappointed. He might not just get it. But at the same time, we knew that you were gonna at least like a majority of Odd Soul because it has that '70s vibe. That I know you love Hendrix and a lot of music from the '70s and whatnot. Which is why I'm really interested in how you would like their final studio album, "Play Dead," because that one to me actually has at least two songs that have Odd Soul vibes to me. But it
Okay.
also has Armistice vibes and vibes from their first album and even vibes from the previous album, Vital. So that's almost like to me, Play Dead, their last album was almost kind of like a greatest hits in terms of their sonic sounds from all their albums.
I
But
am curious now because as you say that, I clicked on Spotify the Play Dead album. I see most of these songs are about 5 minutes or 6 minutes.
yeah, a lot of the songs go through different like structures. Um, but I feel like you have to like the start of the song to like the whole thing. That's kind of thing with long songs. Like I feel like you kind of have to like where it's already going for you, which is why like Burden, I feel like that's why you like Burden because you like the very beginning of it, which is probably why I should like Burden more too. But something about just them like slowing the song down to me loses its energy. But
Funny, sorry to hang on the song duration for so long, but I'm looking at Odd Soul, and most of these songs are 3 to, you know, 4 or 5 minutes, which isn't that much longer than the Armistice songs. But I just feel like the Odd Soul songs went a lot more places. They had
because
like
I think
more
they were
unique
doing the '70s
structures.
sound. '70s songs I feel like get a little bit more progressive than because Mute
Yes,
Math.
but I feel like it doesn't have to be exclusive to 70s. I feel like this is a normal thing to want out of, an album of this
I
type.
think for you, I think there's
For
a lot of
me,
people, Lindsay being one, where she is like if she just likes like the chord structure of a song, she doesn't mind if that's like the whole song. And there's so many songs on Armistice like No Response where she loves just the way the chord sounds so much that she's okay with it not going a ton of different places. Now she loves songs that go a lot of different places. She loves Spoon's "Whisper, I Listen to Hear It," where if you remember that song on Hot Thoughts,
yeah, yeah.
um, it starts off one way and then like it kicks in and you really get going. And but I think the other thing too that I was going to bring up is like when I look at related artists on Spotify for Mutemath, it's a lot of bands that you don't listen to or probably have never heard of. Bands like Minus the Bear and Switchfoot and Civil Twilight and I would throw in Young the Giant. Young the Giant's one that you know now because we covered one of their albums on the podcast recently. But
They don't sound nothing like them, but from what I've heard.
Young the Giant was the one I just threw in there. But like a lot of those other
Oh,
bands I mentioned, like if you look on Wikipedia, their first couple albums, Mutemath's albums, they're considered alternative rock or post rock. And I think they come after bands like Linkin Park, where like they're getting out of the '90s, they're getting out of grunge. Okay, it's like the 2000s rock, right? But it's like
right.
they're not UMath playing a lot of different genres. I mean, like even on Wikipedia, they're considered alternative rock, indie rock, electronica, psychedelic soul, which I think is odd soul, and then post rock, which I think is like their first two. So I think it's just like going to be what is your favorite, style of UMath. Eventually down the road, I might give you their synth pop album. I mean, you might like that way more than Armistice. Lindsay would be shocked and maybe offended, but I wouldn't be surprised just knowing like you don't necessarily maybe you like it more when they're experimental as opposed to just like let's do a 3-minute rock song where it's just verse chorus. So my last question I wanted to ask you is, do you feel like you like their playing and their musicianships more than their songwriting or songs? Because
Yes, absolutely.
I get that vibe from you.
That is a great way to put it. And don't get me wrong. Don't get me wrong. I don't think music is a competition. I don't think that you have to be absolutely, batshit crazy at the drums or the guitar to make a good, listenable record. I think just for me, what I get out of these bands is some great musicians who can throw together some cool tunes, but on Armistice, the tunes just ain't happening for me. They don't really reach me, and that's fine. That's cool. I'm still happy that I really enjoy Odd Soul. And honestly, listening to Armistice here, has actually made me want to listen to Odd Soul a little bit more. And I do hope that the next album you give me from them, I can find a few more bangers that I would seek out on my own to
Yeah,
listen
see,
to.
I think I'd probably I mean, there's only three other albums besides like a couple EPs, and then they have a lot of live albums. And one thing I would suggest that we didn't really have time for in between these episodes, but if you go to Spotify, there's an EP of live songs from Odd Soul from that tour. Um, and then there's a whole live album for this album. And yeah, it does feature a couple songs from their first album, but you could skip those for now. And their live shows are great because it's like the album, but even more energy and even more like musicianship. And they have some live DVDs too from the same tours, from the same shows that are worth checking out. So that's something I would have you check out. And then, yeah, for your next Mutemath album, I don't know. I think I'll talk to Lindsay again. It's either going to be their first or last album because I don't think we give you the synth pop album because I don't think the songs goes. I think the song structure is more like Armistice, but the tone of the songs are more synth pop, which I think is even more outside of your zone than this album, genre wise. But yeah,
Yeah,
I think. I think their last album you would like it. It's got a little bit of everything.
Yeah, and I will say I did, I think, give one listen through Armistice Live, like just in the background, and I think it is something that I think I would enjoy the album more that way.
Yeah,
Something I did notice, and not that I remember everything too well, but they really do manage to pull these songs off live. Because when you listen to the record, it kind of seems like one of those really, I mean, it's one of those 2000s records where there's just kind of a lot of production on it. Um, but they pull it off live. Like it sounds like the guitar tones are similar. Nothing really sounded like they couldn't do it, which is pretty cool because not every band can say that. But I've never checked out the Odd Soul live little EP thing, so I will check that out for
yeah,
sure.
because that was the first tour Lindsay saw them on. Because when she got into them, it was like right when they were releasing Odd Soul. But yeah, we're not even gonna do our would you buy this on vinyl because to buy this on vinyl you'd have to pay a couple $100 on eBay. Um,
Damn.
yeah, that's why I was earlier when I was saying how rare it is. That's really how rare it is. So, um, and now that they're no longer together, I kind of doubt we're gonna get reissues. But I could see maybe buying if Odd Soul was reissued and it was like 25, $30. I could maybe see you buying it if you give it more listens.
Oh, I mean, I probably would just buy it. Yeah.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a good sounding record. It's one that like I know on the podcast here, we I think probably the biggest grower for me maybe has actually been Octung Baby. But this is one of the ones that is growing with me too, even though I don't listen to it very much. This is Odd Soul's cool. I would get it on record for sure, but
Yeah.
you're gonna have to do a little harder to convince me with Armistice here.
Yeah. Well, I'm not going to convince you until they reissue it anyway.
Until they reissue it,
Yeah.
but
But yeah, so drop us a comment. Let us know what you think of Mutemath overall, especially because they're a smaller band. Let us know what you think of this album. What Mutemath album should Tony listen to next on the podcast? And check out our episode on Odd Soul. No, it was before we started doing our video podcast, so it'll just be our audio only. But I think it's a good listen anyway. So check that out. Tony, any last words?
yeah, on the Chris Cornell on the Chris Cornell scale. I can't say the words right now.
Chris
The
Cornell scale,
There you go. There you
the
go.
tongue twister.
Of Minnesota to California. Let me know how hot my takes are on this.
Okay, that's a get it right next time, and then we might include that in every episode. All right. Well,
Thanks
until
for sharing
next
the album with me.
until next time, we hope you take care, and you'll be hearing from us soon. Bye bye.